I would suggest that people make that careful calculus and really go through, can I stand up and speak out? What are the things that I like about this place? What needs to be different? What are the things that need to be different? And what is the likelihood of my making those changes before just saying I'm pulling stakes?
How do moral injury, and resiliency come into play together?
That was a big fad about a decade ago. And then there was a paper that came out in JAMA in July of 2020 by Colin West and some associates. And he found that physicians are significantly more resilient than the average employed population. So this idea that somehow we were not resilient enough, that was the issue causing all of our burnout, was just laid to rest. You do not get through the kind of education and training that we go through without some level of resilience, without a significant level of resilience.
Well, veterinary medicine is bleeding out right now. I mean, we're having a huge attrition rate. We're sitting at about a 38% leave the profession altogether.
Yep.
Within 5 to 10 years. And you wrote a phenomenal veterinary article, which I didn't think got enough attention. But again, the reason why I say that is because I didn't see it. If I would have seen it,
it was in Pennsylvania. It was in Pennsylvania, so
exactly. If
1 out of 50 states.
Exactly. But if I would have seen it before I started my rabbit hole 3 years ago, it would have definitely changed the way I would have looked at things. Do you think it's because I see, am I at least, I don't know. I don't, like I said, you're the human, I'm the veterinary medicine side. Veterinary medicine is very slow to change. Do you think if we would have seen moral injury sooner, we wouldn't have had this huge influx of corporate? You don't think we would have had this huge attrition rate we have now?
I wish there's something that we could have done to prevent the consolidation and vertical integration. I think what we would have had to have done was to nip neoliberalism in the bud. So I don't know that recognizing moral injury sooner would have fixed that. I think that's the result of economic forces that are much bigger than either veterinary medicine or human medicine. They're society-wide, they're international. Like, those are big forces.
Well, I mean, when money decides how you treat in life and death.
Correct.
I mean, how many times do you think someone can do that and be happy? I mean, that's what it comes down to. Now, physicians that are suffering moral injury, do they just leave the profession altogether?
Some of them do.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them stand up and push back in ways that other people can hear.
I know someone named Wendy Dean that did that.
Yes. My book is full of these stories. Like, the second half of the book is full of the stories. Right. And some of them stay in and try to change the system from within. So there are all different ways that you can manage. And one of the folks in my book went and started a DPC practice so that there's no longer any middleman between her and her patients.
Do they just pay as they go?
So it's almost like a gym subscription. Mm-hmm. It's not the concierge model where you pay a member fee and then you pay every month. It's literally like a subscription fee. And she was working in rural Midwest America, and people were able to afford it because not only does it allow you access to the physician, but it also, and by the way, it's 24/7 access to the physician directly. But it also can get you access to lower cost imaging, lower cost blood work, lower cost prescriptions. So it's sort of a wraparound package. Is it perfect for everything? No. but it goes a very long way for most of the things that we need help with.
Do you think these veterinary corporations are the same as human, just a wolf in different clothes?
Brendan Ballou would argue that. So Brendan Ballou is one of the people that I referenced in my veterinary article. He is a former, he's formerly from the Department of Justice. He was formerly at the Department of Justice, and he's written a book called Plunder about private equity in the U.S. as a whole, writ large, not just in healthcare. But he also wrote an article about private equity in veterinary medicine. And I think he would argue, and there's one playbook in private equity. They apply it to veterinary medicine, to human healthcare, to retail, to journalism. There's another great book called Bad Company by Megan Greenwell. And same thing, she applied it to those different areas. The playbook is all the same. It is predictable. You can, once you know what's happening, like once you know their playbook, you can feel it in the places where you go.
I call it the spreadsheet. That's the playbook, Excel spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it dehumanizes every interaction. It dehumanizes every relationship. It simplifies it down to black and white. Does the spreadsheet balance or doesn't it?
And and you and I both, everyone knows life is shades of gray and nothing's black and white. And they try to run veterinary hospitals like they are. I mean, the amount of horror stories I had, at least in the 2 years after I was bought out, first off, they lied to me up front. No, let me take that back. Everyone always says, why did you sell to corporate? Well, we offered it to our associates. None of them had any interest in owning a veterinary hospital. Our kids didn't want to be veterinarians. So we're like, okay, might as well get out. And, this corporate group came in, they promise you the world. They swear nothing will change. They're like, oh, we're buying what your clinic is, the culture, the clients, what you're doing, your employees. You are so successful. We're not going to change anything. And day one, they started changing everything.
So let me ask you a question. Let me turn this around for a second.
Yeah. Go for it.
When they started telling you those things,
mm-hmm.
Did you talk to other vets who had sold out?
I have talked to, I know of quite a few, us OGs here in Orange County, California, that all had successful practices. Yes, we sold out. And the problem is that they've sold out and they've moved on and they're not even anywhere near the veterinary spectrum anymore.
No,
they were done.
Right. But did you talk to them before you sold your practice?
I did. I actually talked to one that sold to this actual actually talked to two that actually sold to the actual corporation that bought me. And mm-hmm. They had nothing but good things to say. And I knew there was a problem when they sent in my regional manager, and her claim to fame was she was the general manager of a LensCrafters in Riverside.
Yep.
Yep. Now, if they would have told me that before I sold, I would have gone, it's no problem.
I mean, let's talk about the introduction to my book, right? What do beer and healthcare and modern healthcare have in common?
Oh, yes, the intro. Yep.
Right? William Schoen, whose claim to fame was, I don't know anything about healthcare except that monopoly is good. And he came from Schaefer Brewing.
Yep.
That he had run into the ground, sold off for parts. When he made a great take on that, went into retirement. Somebody pulled him out of retirement to run a healthcare business.
So when you talk to other veterinarians, what do they say to you privately that they're afraid to say publicly?
I mean, most of the time it's the same thing that I hear in human healthcare, that I'm afraid for my job. I can't speak up because I'm afraid for my job. And I don't know what I'll do if I don't have this job. It's I don't have enough time to care for the pets the way I think I should. I worry I don't have enough support.
Now, support support as far as support in the office, or support if I do come out and start causing or expressing my concerns, I won't have enough people to get my back?
Both.
Okay.
So it's both. I don't know what else I would do. I love these pets. I think one of the differences in veterinary medicine is the very, very, very omnipresent question of finances. The only reason it's not present in healthcare is because it's so complex. Like the money piece of it is so complex. And by the way, physicians are often not allowed to know what their hospitals charge for their services. That it's just not possible to have those conversations. But I guarantee you, if physicians knew, their patients would be asking them, and there would be that conversation with almost every single encounter.
Absolutely. When it comes to personal finances, how much do you think student loan debt comes into play?
Oh, about you mean
Moral
whether or not
injury.
somebody's got to stay?
Yeah, just moral injury in general.
Well, so more student debt is not a betrayal by a legitimate authority in a high stakes situation, right? So that is not moral injury.
But it's in the back of their mind.
But it's not moral injury. So I just want to be clear about that.
Okay.
It is one of the factors that may cause them to be quiet when they experience a betrayal, but it's not a betrayal in and of itself. Does that make sense?
So it's a distressor.
It is, yes. It is one of the factors driving their decision not to speak out.
Gotcha.
And I recognize that is a huge monkey on your back. Like it's a huge thing to come out of school with that kind of debt that you can never retire.
Yeah, I was talking to one student. She was in my office. She's a junior, and she's already sitting at 410,000.
Yep.
And I'm like thinking, and she's like, she's from Florida. She's like, I could buy like 3 houses where I'm from for that amount of money.
Yep.
And I don't even know. I mean, I had some student debt, but I was lucky enough that the real estate in California went, skyrocketed after I bought, and I was able to refi the house and put my student debt into my mortgage. So I got rid of that monkey within like 5 years. But it's a big one. It's a big one.
The reality of the cost of education right now is so different than when we were going through. Like it is orders of magnitude different. Or I mean, it's when you look at, so just as an example, when you look at in today's dollars what the members of Congress paid for their education versus what kids are paying now, it's sort of a tenth of what kids now are paying. And that has to get that all, if you want to do dive down a hair raising rabbit hole, go look at student loan debt and the issues with that and how that came to explode and the betrayals inherent in that system.
Yeah, I mean, because one of the things in the back of my mind is I'm looking at moral injury. One of the things I would like to look at is how much student debt versus how much moral injury people suffer. I know you're saying it's not moral injury, but it's a summation effect.
It's not moral injury. I will stand on that.
Okay.
I will stand on that. It is a reason why people can't stand up. And the best way to address moral injury or to prevent it from happening is to stand up and speak out. If you don't feel that you can pay your bills without that job, you are not going to stand up. So it's a different thing. Now, as I was writing the book, what became very, very clear to me was a pattern of people who were in the military and people who had gone to state schools, who had less debt, felt more comfortable speaking out.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there is an association, but that student debt is not moral injury.
Yeah, because the academic in my head, as we're talking, I'm doing all these research models in my head, like looking at all the arrows and everything, and and that's just unfortunately how I think all the time now, because it moral injury, I it is definitely something that is I could see how this could just it's a whole different beast, and it could be so much, it's so much more personally um destroying than I believe burnout ever could be, in my opinion.
Well, I think the problem with it is that it undermines the very foundation of why most of us went into the professions that we chose.
And spend all that money doing so. See, that's what I keep coming back. I keep coming back to the money thing. And
I know, but I would not simplify it.
Yeah.
Do not oversimplify this, because then we're going to end up right back in the burnout bucket, not being able to affect useful change. I firmly believe that the solution is in the nuance. And if we oversimplify, we lose the nuance. We lose the opportunities for the solutions.
In your opinion, all these high ups at all these corporate groups, whether it's human or veterinary, do you think they're suffering from moral injury at all?
I think there are some who probably are. I would never say that all of them are. I mean, not all clinicians are suffering from it either. But I would guarantee you that some of them are.
Okay, why are some clinicians not?
Because maybe they're working in a practice that's healthier, that's more restorative, responsive. Maybe they have better ethical training and they have learned how to manage those unavoidable moral challenges. Maybe they have come to terms with some of the really difficult practices that we encounter, whether in veterinary medicine or human medicine. And 10%, a certain, I don't know, 10%, 5%, a certain percentage of the population is not bothered by these things in the same way that others are. It's across the board. It's
Right.
it's not just in veterinary medicine. It's across the board.
Well, and then another catchy phrase that people use, not burnout, but they use resiliency.
Okay.
Right? That's the other one that, right?
Yeah.
How do moral injury and resiliency come into play together?
We rarely talk about it. So when that was a big fad about a decade ago. And then there was a paper that came out in JAMA in July of 2020 by Colin West and some associates. And he found that physicians are significantly more resilient than the average employed population. So this idea that somehow we were not resilient enough, that was the issue causing all of our burnout, was just laid to rest. You do not get through the kind of education and training that we go through without some level of resilience, without a significant level of resilience.
And what if someone came up to you and said, "Oh, this is just a generational thing. That these younger professionals are having so many issues and leaving because they just don't want to work hard."
Yeah. I'd also say maybe they just don't want to buy into the BS.
Which is, I think, a generational thing. I think, the Gen
They've
Xers,
watched us.
yes, the Gen
They
Xers
watched us. Yep.
we bucked the system though. We started fighting back. The millennials are like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. And the Gen Zers are like, you guys are all crazy. I'm going to just make millions of dollars on social media and have a fun time. That's the way I kind of look at it now. I look at, quote unquote influencers are making now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of this 20 years ago? My life would be different.
Because it didn't exist. But what I think is that they're looking at what the generations ahead of them have done to get where they are. And they're like, this is not worth it. Like the cost out of my hide is not worth it to get what? Like to not get any stability or safety or ability to have agency in my work or autonomy or authority. Like, why? Why would I go through all that training and end up in this place? I think it's a reasonable question that a lot of corporations are going to need to start doing a better job answering in order to staunch the hemorrhage out of the professions.
Do you think things will change when we have these younger generations up in those C-suites?
I don't know. I hope so, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing I think of as well. Is just like, are they gonna fall into the, oh, look, the Excel spreadsheet way of thinking and worrying about their salaries, or are they gonna continue preaching and passing it down, as far as everything that they're concerned about?
I mean, I think as long as we view the C-suite as a shortcut to a healthy income, that means that the goal isn't necessarily to be an expert in the field and running the field and making the field better. The goal is to have a healthy income. We will always be chasing money. So, and one of the things that we need to start doing is having the conversations about, is money everything? And
Yep.
how do we regain control of the people who control the purse strings?
And then another flashy term that's being used, at least in veterinary medicine right now, is psychological safety. People, unfortunately, a lot of these clinics where people work are not the healthiest that way. And they're telling people just to leave. Would your recommendation be leave that clinic, or would your recommendation is like, hey, if you're going to leave anyway, stand up and see if you can't make a difference?
I mean, that's for each person to make a decision about what's right for them individually. I am characterologically somebody who has to try everything before I give up. So I would hang in there and try to solve it from the inside, but that's not right for everybody. So I would suggest that people make that careful calculus and really go through, can I stand up and speak out? What are the things that I like about this place? What needs to be different? What are the things that need to be different? And what is the likelihood of my making those changes? Before just saying I'm pulling stakes.
Okay, so if you say that everyone's different, do you
Yeah.
think everyone's as susceptible to moral injury?
No.
No.
And again, it goes back to sort of what is your background, what is your understanding of this, what are your obligations that require you to stay in a place that
Mm-hmm.
also keep you quiet. All of those things. I think there are some people who just are less susceptible. And in part,
why is that? Is there a certain trait that they have that you've seen, or
so
is it?
I think the trait I see most often is a real clarity, meaning it's an ethical clarity. It is a clarity of sort of organizational dynamics. It is facility with the ethical challenges and the moral challenges that they're facing. So if veterinary schools wanted to do, or veterinary practices wanted to do the best thing for their clinicians, they would give them a robust training in the moral challenges that you will inevitably face in veterinary medicine, to help people understand both sides of the challenge, to understand both the ethics of the work and the welfare of the client. How do you talk to a patient? How do you talk to a client about for example, consent and potential financial toxicity and the welfare of the animal all together. And how do you recognize that the decision that a client makes is not always going to align with the decision I would make? That is their prerogative. And how do you sit with that when you encounter that?
I think that's a huge problem we have. That's one of the largest problems I think we're dealing with right now. It is.
Correct.
I mean, yeah.
And I will say, part of the reason and this is what I argued in the paper that I wrote, part of the reason that you're suffering from that is because that parentification it serves the larger corporate interests. And so you as veterinarians are being leveraged to have conversations that you might not otherwise have.
If you were able to stand up in front of a bunch of first year medical students or veterinary students, what would you tell them?
Oh, I mean, I have done. And the things I tell them are forewarned is forearmed. So the more you can learn, this is not an easy field you're going into. It's not getting any easier as time goes on. But it will be a lot harder if you don't understand all of the dynamics behind it. You can't just be a technician anymore. You also need to understand human nature, human dynamics. Even if you're a veterinarian, you need to understand those things because that's what drives your business. That's what drives your clients. And so understanding both the business pressures that are happening, the business changes that are happening, and understanding the human dynamics behind it is essential.
Let's say we live in a land of rainbows and unicorns, and
yep.
corporate wants to make amends.
Yeah.
What would that look like?
Restorative just practice, restorative responsive practices. So it would be an organization that identifies as morally centered, that then aligns its behaviors and practices to that morally centered identity, and that has a sort of some level of self-awareness about whether or not it is maintaining that morally centered identity. And there are 113 different recommendations for how to create a morally centered organization from our Delphi survey that we did a couple years ago.
113. Nice.
113 recommendations from that Delphi survey. Yes, that rose to consensus. Holy cow, it was a hard paper to write.
It would be easier for them to call themselves green because there's not that as many. Do you believe going back to the days of just privately, individually owned practices are one way, at least in the veterinary world, to help with the moral injury situation that we're dealing with now?
I think it's certainly one option. I recognize that just as in human medicine, which is getting harder and harder to have an independent practice where you're taking insurance and blah, 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 that it is no small thing to set up your own veterinary practice. It is hard, but you got to pick your hard. Do you want to be beholden to somebody else's decisions? Or do you want to decide your own fate?
It's so funny. I've been telling young professionals that exact thing forever without being able to put a label on it. Now I can even go even deeper on why they should. It was so funny when I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I got a job at a veterinary clinic back in 1990. And I was like, gosh, I like this, but I don't know if I want to be a veterinarian. Don't really care for people. So, and I realized how much you had to work with clients. I was like, I just want to be a licensed tech. And my mentor, like this guy moved me to vet school. This guy, he was a groomsman in my wedding. He looked at me and he goes, Gersh, do do you want to take the shit or do you want to dish the shit? That's the way you got to look at it. And, when you just said that, that came right back to me. It's like, do you want to work for someone else and have to follow their rules and have them put you in situations which is not healthy for you? Or do you want to just go take that chance and create something on your own that you believe is a vision of what you think is right?
Right.
And I hope we go back, go back to having a lot more individually owned practices. Corporate practices are doing a great job shooting themselves in the foot. So I think there will be practices available for pennies on the dollar soon enough. Just because it's not even the employees that can't handle the corporate pressures. It's the clients that can't stand it anymore either.
100%. I mean, you read my article. Clients feel that corporatization and they lose trust in that practice when they feel the corporatization.
Because they become a number.
They become a number. People start selling to them. Like, clients feel it. They feel it.
You've seen stories that no one prints. Is there one that still sticks with you?
Oh, man. I mean, every one of, like, I hear so many stories. And at this point, I don't even know which ones to tell. Like, the one that's hopeful, the one that's super hopeful was in the book, Ray Bravant, who was an ER doc, had served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and came back and was asked to single staff an emergency room that was also covering, so it was covering the adult emergency room, the pediatric emergency room, and all of the floors upstairs, all of the beds in the floors upstairs, 400 of them, one physician. And he's like, number one, it's not safe. Number two, it's not legal. And they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. What's the likelihood that something bad is going to happen? He's like, pretty sure it's high. And they're like, well, yeah, we don't think so. We've done that. We've done that analysis. We don't think it's that high. Within 2 years.
The bean counter said so. Don't worry about it.
Right. And within 2 years, a bad outcome happened. Ray raised his voice again and again. And he ended up getting fired, and then he sued them for wrongful termination. And he won to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. Now, it's not, I don't think that that's a positive outcome because of the tens of millions of dollars. I think it's a positive outcome because it sets precedent to say, when I raise my voice to tell you something is unsafe and you fire me as a result, you will pay.
Because it's not professional behavior, right? That's what they got fired for, behavior unbecoming of a professional or something like that. Is that why they got rid of him?
They got rid of him because he was inconvenient.
Oh, is that what they said?
No, but he was able to prove why they got rid of him. So, I think that there are ways we can fight back, but we have to be willing to acknowledge that we might need to fight back. And then we need to figure out who can help us fight back and how do we build our case.
How close are we to morally collapsing in medicine right now?
So medicine is set in a wider society. I worry less about the moral collapse of medicine because I think that the clinicians who are working are still committed to their oaths. What I worry about is an actual collapse. That as the business practices that have been in vogue for the past 20 years play out, we're shuttering hospitals left and right. We're shuttering service lines left and right. All of those, the need isn't shrinking. The need is actually growing. And So that consistent need is being spread over fewer and fewer places, putting strain on fewer and fewer clinicians. At some point, that is going to implode.
Is there anything that breaks you right now?
That idea. I mean, what breaks me is hearing from so many clinicians so consistently, and it doesn't matter what stage of their career they're at. They're like, I really worry about where I'm going to get care in 5 years. Like, seriously, and they'll all say, no, seriously, I'm really worried.
Yeah. Own personal care.
Correct.
Oof. Well, that'll help me sleep better tonight.
Absolutely, right? Yeah, and that's that's the hard thing. So we're doing these deep dives into things like a private equity corporation that just shuttered some hospitals outside of Philadelphia, and those deep dives we are seeing the playbook play out all over the place. And when you extrapolate what that's going to look like, it's just not pretty.
So all these corporates that you're comparing, are they basically they're all following the same playbook, but they all just have a different name on the cover, basically, is what you're saying. You're seeing
Yeah, because when can we do a quick business?
Absolutely. Let's do business.
Let's do business.
I love business. Let's go.
So, when you think about Milton Friedman, right, back in 1970, the only obligation of a corporation is to maximize shareholder value.
Correct.
Jack Welch, when he came into GE, he put that playbook to the test, right? He took that as his marching orders. Guy made billions. He made billions doing that. Pretty soon, everybody wanted to be Jack Welch. Business schools started to teach his management strategies. Didn't matter whether you were going to manage a for-profit corporation, if you're going to manage a nonprofit corporation. And we got into managerialism. You can manage anything the same. You can manage a LensCrafters as well as you can manage a veterinary practice, as well as you can manage a beer distributor, as well as you can manage a hospital corporation. Doesn't matter. You don't need to be an expert in the thing you're managing. So every business school started teaching that. Right? Let's simplify everything down. Let's just make it into a spreadsheet. Are you in the black? Are you in the red?
Right.
And here we are. So I think we probably need to start questioning, is this what we want? Or do we really want something else?
Well, you hear about it all the time. How many of these hospital corporations are in the red? A great majority of them?
That's a whole conversation. It's a whole conversation because yes, part of their books may be in the red, but are all their books in the red? Where are they moving the money from and to? Like, what about the for-profit arms that these nonprofit corporations have that are feeding into the nonprofit corporation and helping the operational revenue line? Like, that's a much more complex conversation than just what do their books look like.
Well, I mean, the media portrays that all hospitals are going bankrupt. That's basically what you hear all the time as as people who are outside the human medical world. That's all we hear. They're strapped for cash, or, they're dying. They can't afford to pay their nurses anymore. They had to let people go. But the thing is, like, my question is, truly what happens if, let's say, all the nurses and doctors do leave? Will that make a difference?
Healthcare can't run without them.
Will that get anyone's attention?
It would.
Would it make the change?
Well, I think it would start getting people's attention and start conversations going. The problem is that getting people to do that is pretty hard.
Pretty hard. I agree. They have too many other problems on the outside of their job that is counting on their job.
Right.
And I hope by having this conversation today that we've started to shed a little bit of light on what moral injury is and what it is not. And and the reason why I kept asking all these questions is just because you hear people trying to compare, like when I started talking to some veterinarians about moral injury, they're like, oh, burnout. No, it's not burnout.
Right.
And then as you were saying things, I was like, well, resiliency. Well, yeah, doctors are more resilient than most of the human population. And the other thing I want everyone to understand, though, too, is if you're going to look at studies or articles you got to look at who did them, because a lot of studies are corporately funded, and of course they're going to publish it or write whatever they want. I'm not talking about academic style. I'm just talking about what you read in a magazine. And you got to be careful what you do read, because they will only release stuff that makes them look good or makes them look like the victim. And that's another problem we have. I actually talked to someone who said, oh, the suicide problem is not a big problem in veterinary medicine. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, we did a study and I found out that one of the huge corporations paid for that study. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, of course they're going to say that. So you just got to be very careful what you read and how you read it. So
agreed.
Wendy, it's been an absolute pleasure. How do people find out about your work and get a hold of you?
So there are a couple of different ways. They can go to the website, which is fixmoralinjury.org. And if you click through, if you want to contact me, the easiest way is just to go to the website and find the contact page. It comes directly to me. So there are a ton of resources there. And then we do a podcast called 43cc, which is the truth about healthcare with a shot to dull the pain. We get pretty spicy, so just know it's not safe for work and it's not safe for kids, but put your earbuds in and have a listen.
I've been very good. I usually swear a lot, and I was put on my big boy pants today.
Why?
And because I don't want to offend. Like I said, I'm a huge fan.
It's almost impossible to offend me.
Oh, good.
I mean, I don't.
Because you are resilient. That's what that study said in 2020.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I'm going to have to go back and have a think about this and ask our producer. I'm not sure that we've gotten through an episode without some sort of profanity yet.
Oh, wow.
And it's been 2 years. So.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's also, profanity. The F-bomb is a medical term. That's why I tell everybody.
Well, I mean, there's good evidence. Again, I'm going to go back to the empirical data, but there's good evidence that it improves your ability to tolerate pain. So if you need to swear and it keeps you in the game a little longer, maybe that's okay.
Yeah, and especially if you want to swear at the people higher up, that it usually works, because that's what I did. I told the CEO of my corporation that he was a fucking joke, and I got fired the next day.
It's one way to get pain relief.
I felt great. I know exactly where I did it too. I could tell you the time. I could tell you the location. I will never forget. And but that's me. I mean, I'm a disruptor. You're a disruptor. We need more disruptors out there. Then we need more people that are not afraid to speak up and really look out. Because the reason I'm doing what I'm doing, and the reason you're doing what you're doing, is you love medicine. I love veterinary medicine. And I got challenged by some of the higher ups in the profession they were like, okay, you retire. What are you going to do now? Yeah. So this is what I'm doing now. And I mean, I'm the biggest cheerleader there is for veterinary medicine. It's an unbelievable profession. I hate to say this. I think it's better than human medicine, because you can do a lot of things. You can be the internist, the cardiologist, the anesthesiologist, the surgeon, the oncologist, you name it. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah. But that brings up one last point. Do you think we have so many problems in human medicine because human medicine's become so siloed with those specialties?
No, I think the siloing is a secondary effect of the corporatization of care.
Okay.
Because we used to have silos, but people had time to talk to each other, and they did things like belonged to the local medical society. They had motivation to talk to each other because they needed referrals, and they needed to treat their referral base well. So, when all that goes away, when you have a built-in referral system because you're part of a big corporation, you have less motivation to start talking across boundaries. When all of your communication is being driven through the EMR because it has to prove meaningful use to get reimbursed, you're going to start texting or start emailing instead of actually picking up the phone or walking around the corner to talk to somebody. And when you don't have time because you are booked at 95% of your contracted hours, you literally don't have time to walk down the hall and talk to somebody.
Yeah, when you're forced to see appointments every 15 minutes.
Correct.
And your hospital's only staffed for every 30, it all adds up. It all adds
Correct.
up. Oh my gosh, it all adds up.
Correct.
Well, Wendy, I want to thank you, and to the listeners, I would like to thank you. I definitely will have Wendy back. And if there is anything and you need to talk to somebody, get a hold of Wendy. You can reach out to me as well on all the socials. And if I can't help you, I definitely can get you in the path that you need to. Other than that, we'll talk to you next time here on Irreplaceable Truths.